The General Staff of Ukraine recently announced that Ukrainian forces had liberated Bezsalivka from Russian troops. However, a Russian Z channel linked to the northern group of forces denied this claim. At the same time, a Russian war correspondent reported advances by the Russian armed forces near Konstantinovka. Analysts from the Institute for the Study of War also issued an assessment of the situation in the Sumy region. On August 9 to 10, Russian forces attacked Ukrainian positions in the Bezsalivka and Yunakovka areas, with Ukrainian units launching counterattacks in the same sectors. One Russian military blogger admitted that elements of the 51st Airborne Regiment had been partially encircled by Ukrainian troops near Sadkov, causing panic and communication breakdowns. In some cases, Russian soldiers reportedly could not distinguish between their own troops and Ukrainian forces. To stabilize the front, the Kremlin deployed a battalion from the 810th Marine Brigade to the Kondratovka Andreyevka area. Earlier reports indicated that Russia's 234th Airborne Regiment had suffered heavy losses in fighting near Yunakovka. Even pro-Russian sources acknowledged the severity of the situation in the Sumy direction, with the Northern Channel confirming that the regiment was in a critical state after sustained combat. Previously, the same outlet reported that Ukrainian troops had breached the defenses of the 104th Airborne Regiment in Yunakovka. The 234th Regiment was then sent to reinforce the sector, but its attempt to reclaim lost positions failed. By August 8, the situation had worsened further. A Russian Z channel admitted that events in Yunakovka had unfolded far less favorably than hoped. The 234th Airborne Assault Regiment, worn down by days of fighting, had been heavily depleted and was likely to be withdrawn for rest and reorganization. Supply routes were blocked, and several Russian units were encircled in the southern part of the area. Attempts to break the encirclement came under intense Ukrainian fire. The situation is critical. Either we break through a corridor and hold the bridgehead, or we risk losing the stronghold entirely. The question now is who will dictate terms on this section of the front tomorrow, the Russian source wrote. A massive Russian force of roughly 100,000 troops is determined to seize Pokrovsk. But the town is heavily defended by Ukrainian drones, artillery, infantry, and even a few Leopard 2A4 tanks belonging to the ill-fated 155th Mechanized Brigade. According to Euromaidan Press, the Russian strategy is not a direct assault but an attempt to encircle and cut off Pokrovsk. This would require taking Rodinsky, then pushing west across the main north-south TO515 highway, passing Dobropilya and Rodinsky before closing in on Pokrovsk. The only other main route into the city, just west of town, is also in danger of being overrun. The Russian center group of forces, including the 51st Combined Arms Army, has spent a year advancing from the ruins of Avdiivka, 40 kilometers to the east. The costly march stalled on Pokrovsk's outskirts around the new year, but the Kremlin has since mobilized hundreds of thousands of new troops, sending many into the Pokrovsk sector. Charging forward on motorcycles or advancing on foot, Russian forces took heavy losses during probing attacks on the city's defenses. Last month, however, the 9th Motor Rifle Brigade, or a nearby unit, managed to exploit a significant gap in the Ukrainian lines near Rodinsky, Euromaidan Press reports. Rodinsky has now become the focal point of the fighting. As Russian CAB glide bombs pound the village, the 51st CAA is poised for a possible push. The command of the enemy's center operational grouping on the Pokrovsk direction completes preparatory actions, actively accelerating preparations for the assault on Pokrovsk, the Ukrainian Center for Defense Strategies stated. Any advance through Rodinsky and into Pokrovsk will be costly for both sides, especially for the Russians. We anticipate a spike in Russian losses, Frontelligence Insight assessed, but also the possibility of a faster tempo of advances. To slow the assault and inflict maximum casualties, Ukraine has reinforced the Rodinsky area with elements of the 142nd Mechanized Brigade, now equipped with German-made Leopard 1A5 tanks. Despite these reinforcements, Ukrainian forces in and around Pokrovsk remain outnumbered by tens of thousands. Russia has kept up its recruitment drive with lavish enlistment bonuses, while Ukraine continues to face difficulties in recruiting and drafting fresh troops for its exhausted brigades. Partisans have successfully sabotaged a critical railway junction near Rostov-on-Don, halting the delivery of equipment and ammunition to Russian forces operating in the southern direction. The ATESH movement reported the operation. According to ATESH, their groups continue systematically targeting key nodes in Russian logistics, disrupting command plans and slowing offensive operations. This time, the strike hit a junction near the village of Kalinino. This section is a vital link on the enemy's logistical map. It channels the main flow of rail traffic heading southwest toward the temporarily occupied territories. Every day, trains carrying equipment, ammunition, fuel, and personnel passed through this hub, the movement stated. During the operation, one of the main relay cabinets controlling the node was disabled, completely halting traffic along the route and forcing the Russians to seek alternative paths. ATESH emphasized that each such operation delays the enemy's advance and undermines its war plans. Every targeted strike on these critical links brings Ukraine closer to victory. This action follows a series of recent attacks, including one on the Arched station that damaged a traction substation and contact network. Across southern Russia, from Adler to northern rail stations, the network is under pressure. The Kalinino strike marks the 11th such operation, with most previous attacks aimed at traction substations in Kotelnikovo, Novocherkassk, Pishchanikopskoy, Timashevsk, and others. The southern corridor of Russian railways, connecting to the main Black Sea ports and bypassing the Krasnodar hub, is a strategic bottleneck, with only two key alternatives, Timashevsk and Tikhoretsk. Both have been targeted. Last year, this route moved 275 million tons of cargo, more than any other region in Russia. While grain and oil dominate the flow, it also carries fuel, spare parts, fertilizers, seed stock, explosive precursors, and imports from the South Caucasus. Crucially, it supplies both military and civilian needs in the occupied Luhansk and Donetsk regions. Any disruption to this network delays raw materials to factories, ammunition and fuel to the front, and leaves sorting stations clogged with crude oil and grain. With Moscow heavily dependent on the railways, partisans say their objective is clear: keep striking until the pressure becomes unbearable.